Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to another video where we respond to the claims made by J. Smith about the preservation of the Quran. And today we will deal with another stupid claim that J. Smith kept repeating almost in every video he made. It's about the smiley faces. Have you ever heard J. Smith talking about the smiley faces? Well, if no, then let's do it now. Let's go and listen to J. Smith.
Qur'an is taking the same letters, the same razm, and a group of scholars, there's 30 of them that are official, 10 of them that are known as readers, 20 of them that are the students or ones who come underneath them that are known as the transmitters. So that's a total of 30 that have looked at the same razm. The razm is the skeletal text, and decided to put dots in different places and put vowels in different places. And they came up with 93,000 differences. That about 30 different individuals who then put these dots in different variations. And each one of their final corpuses was known as a qira'at, a whole derivation. Now, and 22 of those letters need those dots to make them different, like the ma, ta, tha, bin, and also the ya. 5 letters from just one little little smiley face, you can get 5 different letters. And then, as you have said, if you put 3 of them together, I think there's a further slide coming down. If you put 3 of them together, you can get upwards of 19, 20. You say you've got at least 33 words.
Now let's look at this. People can see a smiley face, right?
Okay.
I mean,
many of your words are made up of these smiley faces. Majority of the words are made up of these smiley faces. I call it smiley face. It's just a little, it's just like a bowl shape. Okay. Now, what happens when you put one dot above it?
so here's what we're gonna do. Now it's a letter known as noon in Arabic.
2 dots.
Now 2 dots. It's ta in Arabic. That's a different letter. Tha in Arabic. That's a whole different letter. Now we have 3 letters already in this shape.
3 different letters,
so
and 3 different dots above the line. Let's see what happens below the line. Let's say take those 3 dots off and start at the bottom, below the smiley face.
So now we have 1 dot. That's ba, letter ba. So you put 2. It's the letter ya. And what happened is the same shape, folks, has 5 different ways to read it now, depending on the type of dot and the number of dots that you have. So I guess people can see now why there is a problem.
Here, J. Smith is trying to make a big deal out of the lack of dottings in the Uthmanic Mus'haf. He wants people to believe that the lack of dottings was a huge problem for early Muslims, that the variance we have between the qira'at originated because of the lack of dottings. Those readers didn't know where to put the dots. Every one of them put the dots in different places, and therefore we have the variant in the qira'at we are having today.
Little 30 face or smiley face, if you put a dot above it, it becomes a na. 2 dots above it becomes a ta. 3 dots above it becomes a tha. 1 dot below becomes a ba. 2 dots a ya. Na, ta, ta, ba, ya. You can get 5 different letters just by putting the dots above and below the lines. Can you then understand that when you also get a whole proliferation of these dots, then you have a proliferation of different words, do you not? And that's why if you just take 3 little words, 3 letters together, not words, just 3 letters together, and put dots above and below the line, you can get anywhere from 19 to 33 words, just from 3 letters put together. Just take 3 of these smiley faces and put dots above and below it. You can get anywhere from 19 to 30 different words just with 3 consonants put together. In order to delineate what that little smiley face was, that little cup shape, you need to have 5 different dots. 1 above it would be a na, 2 above it would be a ta, 3 above it would be a tha, 1 below it would be a ba, and 2 below it would be a ya, na, ta, tha, ba, ya. So 5 different letters could be delineated from just one little smiley face. But that.
Now let's start responding to J. Smith. First of all, let me make it clear. It is true that the Uthmanic Mus'haf didn't have dots. And it is true that the only way you can differentiate between certain Arabic alphabets is by using dots. But the question we need to ask here, how big of a problem was that for early Muslim? If it was a problem at all. Because from the previous clips we've watched, it seemed like it was a total crisis for early Muslims, which resulted in thousands of variants. So let's have some facts rather than rhetoric. This is a table showing the number of alphabets which require dots to be distinguished from each other in the Quran. For example, on the top we have the so-called smiley faces, 5 different letters that can only be distinguished from each other through dottings. There are 94,382 of these letters. And likewise we have the number of other letters, which could be confused due to the lack of dots. The total number of these letters is 168,682. How many variants originated from these 168,682 letters? How many? 50,000? 10,000? 1,000? Well, the number is approximately 250 letters. So only 250 variants resulted from over 168,000 letters. That's 0.15%. That's how big was the problem for early Muslims. 0.15%. All of this time that Jay spent talking on this, trying to explain how difficult it is to read Arabic alphabets without dots, he was actually talking about just 250 variants. Well, wait, it gets even worse. Because we are not talking about just one individual. We are talking about, as Jay always claims, 30 readers. So 30 readers are going to make over 168,000 decisions on where to put the dots. So 168,000 multiplied by 30, that's 5,040,000 decisions. 5,040,000 decisions. How many out of these 5,040,000 decisions were wrong decision according to Jay? 250. Now, of course, they were not wrong decision, as we are going to explain, but just for the sake of argument, let's pretend they were. So again, out of 5,040,000 decisions, only 250 decisions were wrong. That's 0.005%. That's how big was the problem of the smiley faces that Jay Smith keeps talking about. 0.005%. And Jay wants you to believe that it was a crisis for early Muslims. They didn't know where to put the dots. Well, if they didn't know where to put the dots, how come the percentage of variance between all of them is 0.005%? Is that even possible? How is it possible that all these different readers who came from different parts of the world agreed on almost everything except 0.005% if they didn't take from the same source, which is in this case the revelation that came down to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Well, someone might say, well, they agreed because the context was very clear. So it has nothing to do with memorization. It's to do with the context. The 7th century Arabs could know which word fits based on the context. Well, although this argument is false because there are many words which could have been read in different ways, but instead they were read exactly the same by all the readers. But let's just agree, for argument's sake, that it is very easy to know where to put the dots based on the context. To respond to this, I will use an excellent example that was used by Brother Mansour Ahmed in his Twitter account. The example of the disjointed letters in the Qur'an. These are letters that has no context whatsoever. Here is a table showing some of these disjointed letters. On the right side you have the rasm. This is how they appear on the Uthmanic Mus'haf. And in the column in the middle you can see the possible readings of this rasm. And on the left column you can see the correct one, which is recited by all readers. So let's take the first example. This one could be read as Yasin, Yashin, Tasin, Tashin, Basin, Bashin, Nunsin, Nunshin, Thatsin, Thashin, 10 different ways. But all of the readers somehow agreed to recite it as Yasin. All the readers, with no exception whatsoever. And the same goes for the second one, Hamim. It could be read in 3 different ways, but it's only recited in one way by all the readers. There are cases where there are 20 possible readings, but all the readers of the Quran agreed on one reading. And these are letters without any context. How would all the readers agree on one reading? Imagine you were a teacher in a school and you gave these disjointed letters to 30 students and you ask them to put the dots. How likely is it that when you correct their papers, you will find that all of them gave the same answer? Is that even possible? And if it happens, what will you infer? Well, there's only one possible conclusion. They all got it from the same source. And this is exactly what happened with the Quran. All the 10 readers with their transmitters agreed on how to read these disjointed letters because they got it from the same source, the revelation that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ received. I mean, there's no other option. The other option is to say, well, it was a coincidence that all of them agreed with each other. They all did it on their own, and it was a coincidence that they all agreed with each other. Well, fair enough. If you want to believe that, then I don't know what to say to you. You really need help. The last point I want to make is this. Jay argued that it was very difficult to read the Quran without the help of dots. But is that what early Muslim scholars thought? When we go to the tradition, what do we find? We find opinions like this of Imam Malik, who said that we shouldn't add dots to the Uthmanic Mus'haf. But it is okay to add dots to the Masahif that the children use. So it doesn't seem like Imam Malik was very excited about adding dots to the Mus'haf. And of course he wouldn't make this opinion unless he himself believed that the Uthmanic Mus'haf was readable even without dots. And if we go to other early scholars like An-Nakhai and Ash-Sha'bi, we find the same opinions. They don't see that dots should be added to the Masahif. In short, it isn't like J. Smith is trying to suggest that Muslims were only able to read the Quran after adding the dots. These opinions clearly prove that the Quranic Mus'haf was easily readable by the 7th century Arabs without the need for dots. And that ends our video. Thank you so much for watching. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.